evening, and welcome to A Kind Voice on Movies. I'm your host, William Battle, and tonight we're going to talk about film's unsung heroes, assistant directors. Right now, we have Leonardo Corbucci, director of documentary legendary AD. Welcome to the show, Leonardo. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you to invite me here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. And also, we have Michelle Benitez, David Benghaus, Nick Satriano, and Bert Bluestein on the line. They are some of the legendary ADs featured in the film. Good evening, everybody.
How you doing?
Good evening.
Hello.
All right, first I want to talk to... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Your turn.
All right. First I want to talk to Leonardo about the documentary Legendary AD. How did that come about?
All right. Before I start, let me say sorry for my spaghetti English because I have a very strong Italian accent. I am a typical Italian person, so I talk with my hands a lot. So try to imagine an Italian guy that is gesture a lot when I'm talking. That may help to understand the pronunciation. All right, so about Kickstarter, the production company that produced the movie in the beginning is from Italy, and they went bankrupt like after the first 2 months that we start production. So I was alone by myself, and I tried to finance the project as long I could. And then I ran out of my finances, and I decided to start this Kickstarter campaign. And we are halfway with the days and halfway with the money. So it's kind of a big challenge. I didn't know how much work is to run a fundraising campaign. And I don't know, one of the most important thing about this Kickstarter is that I have a lot of friends, a lot of people that say, hey, it's gorgeous, I really like the concept of this documentary. I love the idea, I love the trailer, I can't wait to see the documentary when it's coming out. But I want to remind, if I don't reach the goal, there will not be a documentary. So, and even if they give me like $1 or something like this, all this audience that they will love to watch the documentary, we will finish and will be released in December, let's say.
Wow. And you have how many of the ADs interviewed for the film?
I have 10 so far, and I schedule the rest of the 10. So total, I will have 20 legendary ADs for this documentary.
And your film career started in Italy. What got you into filmmaking?
Yeah, part of my family come from the movie business, the Corbucci, and basically are the same Corbucci that they did Django, the original Django that Tarantino actually did the remake. And so I was always fascinated about movies, but I will say that when I saw, I know that this could be funny, when I saw Twin Peaks from David Lynch, I was like 14, I was so scared about what was going on, and I was thinking, how can I be so scared about a TV show? Doesn't make any sense. So from that point, I was like looking for what there was behind making a movie. And from there, I started the National Film School and some other schools, and I never stopped making movies and love movies from there.
I mean, Italy's given us some great directors, Fulci, Deodato, Fellini. A lot of art and vision come from Italy.
Yeah, especially in the past. I mean, there was a period that was called the Nouvelle Vague in French, and also there were a lot of masters from Italy, like Fellini, Antonioni, Rossellini. We were in the box office worldwide very often, but things are changed. Now it's more a visual impact, so you need to give space to visual impact rather than stories. But hopefully the stories will come back.
Definitely. And you've traveled around the world in your film career, haven't you?
Yes, I spent a lot of time in Bulgaria, where I did my first feature film called Black and White in Colors. And I stopped there for some commercial as well. And then I went to South Korea and Japan and Thailand shooting other movies. At the same time, America, United States, Los Angeles particularly, was always a point of stop and go for finances and for meetings. Los Angeles is the city of meetings for entertainment. for movie business. So I was here pretty often. Until last 2 years ago, I decided to move definitely in Los Angeles for stable.
Right. And with black and white and in color, what is that movie about?
That's a surrealistic movie. It's a love story, a love triangle between one girl and two guys. And in the 3/4 of the movie, you find out that there is a big twist that I will not reveal, but there is something that changed all the movie and let you see the movie back with another point of view. The movie is also a copy called Black and White in Colors No Profit Edition. Is online for free, so people are free to go in Vimeo, I think, and watch it for free.
With that movie, you had it took a couple years to make, correct?
Yeah. We shot in 35 millimeters, and the production was 1 year. There was a complicated helicopter scene in an old town in Bulgaria, and that was like only that scene was like 3 months of rehearsal because there were people that need to appear here and there, and the helicopter supposed to be there when these people come out from the house. It was a big challenge.
And from that, you had a framed letter on set from Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, because I had the crew in Bulgaria that was really stubborn to say that's an impossible shot, Leo. You should give up. Don't do it. Don't do the shot. It's an impossible shot. And I'm like, guys, nothing is impossible in movies. If I can tell a visual movement, we can do that visual movement. And everybody were so close to give up when I know that everybody was a big fan of Alfonso Cuarón, and I have this little connection with him, and I called him and I said, listen, you gotta send me a letter and say a big motivation to the crew and say, hey guys, come on, please help Leonardo to do this impossible shot, because actually nothing is impossible. And he did that, and that helped a lot, actually. Without that letter, I don't think so I will ever have that scene and the movie done. So that movie is basically thanks to Alfonso Cuarón, I want to say.
That's a great story. And like you said, nothing's impossible. And what I want to do is I want to take I want to talk to each one of the legendary ADs we have on here, because it's not every day that someone like me gets to talk to people that are behind some of the biggest films in Hollywood that have come out.
Absolutely, and thank you everybody to be here. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. First, not in any particular order, I'd like to talk to Nick. How are you doing tonight, Nick?
I'm excellent, thank you.
Now, you have a lot of the newer modern movies coming out. You were assistant director on Winter Soldier, Expendables 3, Fast and Furious 7, a lot of them, The Avengers.
Yeah. I've for some reason I've gotten attached to a lot of the action.
Hey, a lot of you guys, all of you, are there on right now. I was looking at your filmographies, and that's most of my DVD collection. So, the ones that are out on DVD, and the ones that are in production and stuff will eventually join the collection.
Yeah.
And if you all pardon me while I kind of geek out a little bit talking to you guys.
Absolutely.
That's all right. So, Nick, how did you get into filmmaking?
Well, believe it or not, it was kind of a fluke. I graduated from UC Santa Barbara with a business economics degree in accounting, and I ended up taking the CPA exam and failing it miserably. And my sister, Lisa Satriano, who doesn't seem to be on right now, but she's the one that got me into the business. I kind of followed her footsteps. She brought me along, and she basically taught me everything I know.
And sister Lisa, we were supposed to have her on, but she's not on. She is responsible, and I don't mean to diminish what you guys do, but one of my favorite movies of all time is Malibu's Most Wanted.
That's which I was living in Malibu at the time, so it was nice to be doing a movie at home, but that didn't do quite so well. But it was fun to work on, that's for sure.
It may not have been one of those big Hollywood blockbusters, but it makes me happy every time it's on.
It's funny.
And what does it feel like knowing that you've been involved in some of these big films that make people feel that way?
Well, it's an honor. I mean, just being mentioned with all the people that you have on right now, it's an honor just to be named with these guys. Just because a lot of them I've worked for and have heard their names growing up in the business, and just to be talked about in the fifth sentence, I'm honored just to be on here. I used to grow up watching their movies that they worked on, and I know the feeling. So, growing up in this business, having felt that, I know how it feels for other people to be related to these kind of films, and I've lived a very happy and successful career, so I'm grateful, very grateful.
That's awesome. and hopefully you have a very long career.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And let's see. Later on, I'm going to ask you all what your favorite on-set moments are, or your favorite on-set story. So if you want to think about that, right quick, we're going to go to a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Corey from Runa, and at Runa we make a number of different beverages, all from one leaf called guayusa. Guayusa is a naturally caffeinated leaf from the Ecuadorian Amazon. Indigenous peoples in that area have been brewing and drinking it like tea for thousands of years. All the guayusa that we sell is certified organic, fair trade, and non-GMO. And because guayusa is naturally packed with caffeine and antioxidants, it gives you this really nice, clear-headed, clean, and focused energy. We think of ourselves as a lifestyle brand because guayusa fuels you in doing whatever it is in your life that you need or love to do. So if it's one of those days where you need to sit at your desk for 8 hours and pound out some project or report, then guayusa is perfect for fueling you and doing that work. Alternatively, if it's a beautiful day out and you're going to do yoga in the park or you're going for a bike ride in the woods, then guayusa is perfect for fueling that as well. It gives you this amazing, full-body, wholesome energy and helps you feel fully alive. And that's why we call our company Runa. Runa is a Quechua word that actually means fully alive or fully living human being. Runa offers a few different lines of guayusa products. We have loose leaf, tea bags, bottled iced tea, and a more concentrated energy drink. But it's all made from the same great Amazonian guayusa. We're sold in natural, organic,
I'm a multi-charge. I've been working with it all day long, so the thing is fully charged.
You can always find a store near you on our website with our new locator at runa.org. So go out to a store near you, grab a box or a bottle or a can, and crack one open and try one today.
Unmuted. Welcome back to A Kind Voice on Movies. I'm your host, William Battle. Before we left on the break, we were talking to Nick Satriano about his film career and his life as an assistant director. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, another one of your movies that I thoroughly enjoy is Tropic Thunder.
Yeah, that was I think actually David, if I'm not mistaken, came and finished that movie when I stepped off. Right, David?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah.
I wasn't as good as you, though.
What's that?
I wasn't as good as you, though.
I don't know about that. I've always followed in David's steps. So, being and working with all those great actors, it was fun. I mean, it's a double. It's the fortunate ability to work with actors, and then the beautiful location in Kauai. It was great.
I always talk about that movie, and it's like one of the more quotable movies besides Anchorman for the past decade.
Yes.
And we were talking about it. People couldn't believe that I did not know that was Tom Cruise.
He put on a pretty good performance.
He did. Let's see here. Next, I want to talk to Bert. How are you doing tonight, Bert?
I'm doing real well, thank you.
Now, you've been in the business the longest here on the assembled crew, haven't you?
Probably, yes.
How did you get into the business?
Well, I got into the business because I had family in the business. I had an uncle who we lived in the Catskill Mountains in what used to be known as the Borscht Belt, and he had a business where he showed movies to the bungalow colonies and the small hotels. And my cousin Carol and they would get 16 millimeter prints, and they were on 2 reels. And he had figured out a way, my uncle had figured out a way to get it on 1 reel. And so I'm 13 years old and I'm making splices so that we could connect the reel 1 with reel 2. And then when he had to send them back, we had to disconnect it and put the leader back on. So it started that way. And then when I went to Syracuse, I was in the School of Broadcasting. And when I got out, I started doing commercials in New York.
And from commercials, you just got
I got really bored.
Worked your way up to movies.
Yes, I got really bored with commercials, and then I met Richard Sarafian, and he had a low budget picture, one of his first pictures, called Andy, and I was the production assistant on that, and then I was hooked.
One of the movies that you made was The Godfather Part 2.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, I was
and
on.
What was that like on that set?
Well, it was big. We had I did most of that. I was a New Yorker. I just did the New York portion of it, and we were on 7th Street between Avenue B and Avenue C, which turned out to be the only street in Lower Manhattan that you could look east and see the river, and all the old buildings and stuff that were there, and we spent a lot of time on it. Basically, most of the work that we did was on that street, the parade and killing Fanucci and doing the opera. We did the opera Senza Mama. We did that, and it was just big picture. Big pictures move slowly.
Oh, I can imagine. And like another one you did, you worked in television with the Alien Nation series.
Yes.
What are some of the big differences between television and film?
The biggest difference is the time allowed. Generally, nowadays, 7 or 8 days is what you do an episode. An episode, once you subtract the commercials, about 45 minutes long, and you have to get it done in 7 days. So that's the biggest difference. So you start doing 6 pages a day, as opposed to 1 or 2. There was one day on Godfather we did 2 shots. But the one shot was easy because they were setting up for the second shot, and we spent just getting it organized and rehearsing and setting up. Bob Rose, the key grip. They worked out a way to build ramps around the dolly track so the horses and the wagons could go over the dolly track and get past camera, so we could keep the shot going. That was pretty significant. And then you asked about an interesting day on Godfather. Mike Haley was on when we had a really big crowd. Mike Haley, who was Mike Nichols' assistant director, he liked to streak. And there was a day while we were all waiting to set up, and he walks up to me and he says, "I'm going to streak the street." And he worked it out with one of the Teamsters to take his clothes, bring him around the block, and he did it. And I have pictures. And I have the picture where he's running down the street, and you see you see him going. You see Francis looking at him like what's going on. That was one of the better days.
Well, imagine when you're doing long hours and doing 2 shots a day, you need something to break the tension.
I wouldn't call it tension. I would call it more monotony.
Oh. Well.
You know, the late Gordon Willis. There was one day on the street where he had the biggest black that I ever saw. It was they had a forklift truck that could go up about 40 feet, and there was 40 feet of black, so that you wouldn't see any reflections in any of the windows on the street that might be in the picture.
Wow.
And so you get to watch this truck moving around. and so that was kind of interesting.
It's amazing some of the details that you guys have to get into when you're, making the set and making movies.
Yeah, I think that the hardest part is trying to visualize. You know, when you're the biggest thing that we do before shooting starts is creating the schedule and working out with the director what it's going to be, and you have to visualize all the elements and how long it's going to take to realize them. That's probably the hardest part, the most thought-provoking. After that, it's a quote from Nilo Otero, who's on the AD on the film. He says, "We're the ringmasters. It's here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the center ring. Now come the flying Wallendas." and that's what we do is when we're actually filming is making sure everybody's moving in the right direction and communicating properly.
That's actually pretty awesome. As you know, any of you, I would give like a vital organ to hang out with you on set one day, just one day. Don't hold me to that, because sometimes I say stuff I don't mean.
Well,
like
if you don't
hang out, it's going to cost you a kidney. I might reconsider.
No, well, I gotta
Sure, we
tell
can
you,
make that happen at some point.
there are days on the set that you feel like you're just watching paint dry, and but it's fun. It's good. You know.
Now, I'd like to talk. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
Hello?
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
I had a question for Michelle. How are you
Yes.
doing, Michelle?
I'm doing great.
Now, you worked on The Gamblers, The Ledge, for television, correct?
That was it was a sort of a game. It wasn't a show per se. It was it was supposed to be for a game, I think.
And how did you get into filmmaking yourself?
Well, I came down to Los Angeles from San Francisco. I was initially wanted to be an actress, and it took me about a year to realize I was far more pragmatic than that. Not to mention I liked eating. Eating and paying my rent seemed like a better solution to acting. And so I ended up doing some temporary work in offices, and I got hooked up with RSO Records, Robert Stigwood Organization. And I was their receptionist for about a year, and then the film company opened in LA, and Roger Rothstein was the head of production, and I started working for Roger. Then we left RSO, and I was ended up being his production coordinator for about 7.5 years. And then I decided I really wanted to get on set. So through a course of events and doing a lot of, non-union work and getting my days, I became an AD.
And
So I actually came out of the office. Pardon me?
I was going to say, I neglected to tell our listeners what actually an AD does. I just assumed I kind of knew.
Yes. I think, the other guys can help me out here too. I think that sort of the best way to describe what we do is, a director has a vision, and the first AD is there to enable that vision, to give them, he or she, whatever parts they need on a day-to-day basis and through the course of the movie, and help them enact their vision.
That's just
In probably the most pragmatic sense. But
sounds pretty cool. I mean, a lot of the directors and the actors get top billing, but you guys make it happen.
well, and for me at least, I love it because I sort of love the jigsaw puzzle of it. you know. I do a lot of hybrid movies, you know, the small furry animal, the small furry talky animal person, the chipmunks and Garfield. And there's just something really fun about putting a visual effects movie together, because it's just everything, it's just all these great little pieces of puzzle. And it's a fun thing to do. It's just interesting.
When do you see it about, you know, coming together? You know, like, you know, you do all these, putting the pieces together. When it's shooting, does it seem to come together? Or do you have to have that vision the entire time?
You sort of have to have the vision the entire time, especially with a lot of the movies I do, because half of the movie you don't see. You only see the live action part of it. And it isn't until much, much later when everything else has been put in the computer. And now it's more so. When I did the first Jurassic Park, and we did a lot of actual puppets, a lot of Stan Winston work on that. So you saw it happen while we were making it. But now a lot of the things, like the Chipmunk movies and the Garfield movies and Hop and all these other little movies I've done, there's nobody there. So you're really only seeing half most of the time.
Right, and one of my favorite parts of the Alvin and Chipmunk Squeakquel, it was that David Cross was doing the puppets.
Yes. He's a pretty funny man. We had him on in the third one. We actually were on a cruise, a Caribbean cruise out of Florida and we had I think it was something to the tune of 4,000 people that were actually taking the cruise that we had no control over for 7 days, and had to work around them. And David was in a pelican suit the entire time. So, yeah, he wasn't having a ton of fun. But it was, I mean, that's the kind of thing that's interesting, too, is when you finish that, when you have complications to that degree that you have to work around, and when you do, and when it all comes together and 7 days are over and it all happened, it's quite a rewarding feeling.
And you also did Galaxy Quest, correct?
Yeah, I was the ILM, on the ILM unit. So on that one, Vincent Lescombe was the first AD in the first unit. I was the first AD on the ILM visual effects unit. But we were all in Goblin Valley together in the heat, in the desert, rolling around the valley, because you could not walk in everything in Goblin Valley and helicoptering it in every morning, because you can't roll anything in that part of Utah, in that particular area.
And, I mean, did you tell each other never give up, never surrender?
Well, the funny, the truly hysterical moment of that is, I mean, literally, we would spend all day long tramping around and hiking around through Goblin Valley with all of our equipment every single day, and then packing it up and putting it back on the helicopter every single night. And then on the weekend, we literally would do things like go to the Arches on our day off and hike, to which we were like, okay, whose idea was it to spend the day hiking on our day off from hiking 6 days a week? But you do it. And it's still fun, and it's always fascinating when you get to be part of really interesting. I mean, I think everybody else can, attest to this as well. I think one of the things that makes our jobs so fun is when you get to be part of some really just interesting things in the world, or interesting situations. Or, I mean, I actually stood in on a heart surgery while we were prepping City of Angels, just to get action, background action, and see exactly what was going to happen in a thoracic heart surgery. I'm literally standing in the surgery room with the anesthesiologist.
Wow.
Thinking to myself, I don't know if this woman actually signed up for that. But it is. It's these outrageously wonderful things you end up getting to do that you just would never do otherwise in your life. And get paid for them. That's the best part.
and that sounds real amazing. I want to personally thank you for helping make some of the movies to keep my son busy.
Oh, yeah. I keep a lot of children busy. Yes, I do.
Yes, like Casper, he was watching that the other day.
Oh, yes. Yes, that was fun. That was a very fun movie. And that particular director, Brad Silberling, and I have continued actually to work together for 21 years now. So it's been fun.
Well, I can't believe it's been that long.
Yes, sorry.
Well, right, we're going to take a quick break for this week's team trivia question, and we'll be right back.
It's interesting. One of the things that they're gonna play a commercial. One of the things that
This is NASCAR driver Kurt Busch, and I am proud to support our nation's veterans. Do you know you can get a faster decision on your disability compensation claims by filing
whatever you
electronic
do,
full claim
you learn
claim
something.
on e-benefits?
You know, if you, like I did a show, we had firemen. Well, you don't firefighters. They don't turn on the water. They charge the hose. There's different words and there's different things. And if you do if you do a Western, you learn about
A Western.
You know.
Absolutely, yeah.
And like I ask when I teach classes, I tell, like for a Western, there's what's the one piece of equipment that you can't do without? You know the answer? Titan crane. Remember that the actor is sitting on top of a horse. He's 10 feet up in the air. You don't want to shoot up his nose.
Welcome back to A Kind Voice on Movies. Before we left, we were talking to Michelle Benitez about her film career. Welcome back, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Dave Benghaus Jr. How are you doing tonight, Dave?
Good, thank you.
And a lot of your movies, although, have been very iconic yourself. Wild Wild West, Gone in 60 Seconds.
You started with that one?
Oh, well, yeah.
All right. So, that made me laugh. All right, sorry, keep going.
I kind of thought Loveless was a great character.
I'm joking. It was a fun movie to make.
Well, and I did a special episode a couple months back where I talked about my favorite movies, and Natural Born Killers is actually one of them. I should have started there, huh?
Yeah, that's a good one.
And what was that like working on that movie? Because I know some of it was animation and some of it was kind of like dream sequency. And
Yeah, well, I start with that was actually my very first movie in the Directors Guild. I was a second AD on that, so I can't speak much to being a first AD on that. But it was my very first AD job in the business. It was my first film I did. I started as a production assistant in New York. But it was probably to date, and I'm not exaggerating, probably one of the most challenging jobs that I've ever done or been part of for many reasons. I had worked with Oliver as a production assistant on a movie called JFK prior to that, so I had a relationship with him. And Herb Gaines was the first AD, and we went through Noga Isaacson was our second, and then she left, and we had another guy come in later on. It was a road movie. It was the complexities of that was we were on the road every day. We'd shoot in a town and move to another town, and shoot in a town and move to another town, and then, of course, ended it with the most pleasant part of it is shooting in a prison. We shot in a Stateville prison in Joliet, outside of Chicago. And the most challenging thing for that film was that Oliver wanted to not only shoot in a maximum security prison, but he also wanted to do so using real prisoners. And we, believe it or not, shot with the real prisoners in that prison. For part of the time until the governor got involved and changed that, but it was very challenging all the way around, and we didn't know. It was one of those films where we all wished we knew what we were making at the time, and I think all of us were equally surprised at the final product. Like it or not, I think Oliver did an amazing job creating something very different, unique, and thought-provoking to a point where a lot of people stepped back and. Like I said, they may not have enjoyed the film, but I think everyone talked about it, for better or for worse. And I think it really did spawn a bit of dialogue with respect to what we want in the violence in films and where we're going. And
at that time in that generation. It was an interesting film to make.
And definitely, I'd usually bring it up when I'm talking about, because I'm in the Army Reserve as a photojournalist. And sometimes when I talk about media responsibility to the audience, that's one of the biggest movies I cite right there. Because
Absolutely, yeah.
not only, does it give because they made Mickey and Mallory heroes in that movie.
They did, but I think with respect to that making him a hero, I think they were trying to also suggest, or at least Oliver, one of my favorite quotes, Oliver was being interviewed about the film later on, and he said that he felt like he was putting a mirror up to the audience and saying, this is what you've asked for, this is what you get. So I think he was trying to make a point that there was nothing glorious about making those two heroes, and I think that was the whole point he was trying to make. And some will argue that it didn't work, that they did feel like they were glorifying the actions of those two. But I feel a lot like, if you remember the All in the Family show, Archie Bunker was a racist, ridiculous human being, but the whole point of the character was to show the insanity of the comments he was making, and by using humor to do so. And I think with Natural Born Killers, I think the same thing Oliver is trying to show us through the amount of violence in the film, that be careful what you ask for, because it can be pretty harsh.
Right. And I hear I'm going to pull out my Hillary Clinton, and I misspoke a little when I said that.
Yeah.
And what I meant was, characters like Wayne Gates that glorified
Yes.
Mallory.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
and you had fans when they interviewed people like on the news. You had the girl going, "We love you, Mickey and Mallory," and things like that.
Well, it's so true. I mean, look at the guy that the bomber from Boston. I mean, from the Rolling Stone cover to fan base that this kid had, it was insane. So it still goes on, and that's still an element of our society. And I think that's the point he was trying to make at the time.
Right. Definitely, I can agree with that. And how did you said that was your first film?
That was my first job as an assistant director within the Directors Guild of America. I started before that as a production assistant, which is a non-union position that works with the production staff with us ADs. And I started in New York. I did all of my production assistant days in New York, starting in television, actually.
And so, did you go to film school or anything like that?
I didn't. I went to school and studied film. I didn't go to. I went to Oneonta State, a small school upstate, part of the SUNY system of New York, and they didn't have the strongest film program, so I made the best of what it was. And got out of school, needed a job, and I remember sending my resume out. Back then, you had to type every letter out. There was no internet, and sending my resume to everyone. And the only show at the time that was in New York, really, of any substance, was The Cosby Show. And of all the letters I sent to Los Angeles and New York at the time, they were the only one to respond, believe it or not. And I went and I started as an intern on The Cosby Show, and within a couple of weeks was upgraded to the only set PA. And I was a set PA on The Cosby Show, which segued me into features. I shouldn't say this online, but I bribed my way, I guess, into my first feature film as a production assistant, because I was working on The Cosby Show in California Studios in Queens, New York. And they were shooting a feature film next door, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was Jeff Bridges' film. And I remember during a lunch period sneaking around their set and got a tap on the shoulder and turned, and the assistant director from the show asked me who I was, and I said, I'm sorry, I just wanted to look around. I said, you shouldn't be here. And so while I worked on The Cosby Show next door, and his eyes got big, because back then to get tickets to The Cosby Show was close to impossible. So I, of course, made it sound like it would be impossible for me to get tickets. They said, if I get you tickets, sorry, if you get me tickets, I'd get you a job as a PA. And I said, really? He goes, yeah. And so I got him tickets, and never thought I'd hear back from him. And I swear to God, the day I wrapped The Cosby Show, the season of The Cosby Show, called me, and he offered me a job as a production assistant on a movie called Lean on Me, which was in New Jersey. And it was a set PA on Lean on Me with Morgan. It was a Morgan Freeman film. And that was my first PA job, was on a feature film, and caught the bug and more or less stayed with it.
And that was one of those movies that they showed us in school. That,
it was the first of that whole genre, which was beaten to death eventually. But it was probably, in my opinion, was probably still the best of that genre.
Well, yeah, you had movies like Stand and Deliver and other movies like that.
There were some great ones. Yeah, John Avildsen was the director who, was the director of the original Rocky, who won Best Director for Rocky, and eventually became the director of the Karate Kid movies in the '80s. And what a pleasant man! They're still very good friends with him, actually. And, very talented director.
That is cool. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our last commercial break, and we'll be right back.
All right.
Hi, I'm Claire Bloom, and I started End 68 Hours of Hunger to put bags of food in the hands of local children who have little or nothing to eat for the 68 hours between the free lunch they get in school on Friday and the free breakfast they get in school on Monday. Our vision is to end childhood hunger in America one school at a time, and that's how we operate. We start programs wherever we have two volunteers in the community who are prepared to step up and take responsibility for running the program, and we grow from there. Today, we're feeding 900 children each weekend in 29 communities, and we're growing. If you're interested in starting a program in your community, please visit our website at www.
The story, it's a pretty good story. And what happened was they had this medicine they were trying, and they gave him this medicine, and he was like a genius. And they also were tracking parallel with a mouse running through a maze. And then after a while, the mouse retrograded. He went back to the way it was, and they realized the same thing was going to happen to Charlie.
Oh boy.
And it's a
Welcome
really
back
good
to
movie.
Kind Voice on Movies. I'm your host, William Battle. And before we left on the break, we were talking to David Benghaus Jr. about his film career. Welcome back.
Thank you.
As we're winding down the show, I'd like to ask each of you, a couple of questions separately about your favorite stories on set. I think I mentioned it earlier. And David, since we were talking to you last, what's your favorite set story?
I got so many. Probably from one of the more recent films I did. We were shooting The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Ben Stiller was directing, and I met Ben on Tropic Thunder when I took over on Tropic Thunder. And we shot most of the movie in New York, and we shot up in Iceland. We shot the entire, it was a year-long process from prep through shooting, and we were shooting in Iceland. There was one sequence, I don't know if you saw the movie or not, where Ben's character Walter jumps from a helicopter and lands in the water and then eventually fights off a shark. And we had gone through a number of iterations how we're going to shoot that, from water tanks to CG, a number of different things. And Ben constantly said, I want the deadliest catch. I want the big seas. I want to get out there. And so we finally found a spot off of this one area, coast of Iceland, that had fairly large seas. And we were supposed to shoot. It was the very last couple of days of shooting. And the intention was to actually go out with the fishing trawler and get out there and put Ben in the water. And he was planning on doing it, water safety all around, and guys on jet skis. And we shot for a day, and he was just bummed. They were fairly nice sized waves, but he was, no, this isn't big enough. It's not big enough. Let's try one more day. And we tried another day. No, it's not big enough. It's not big enough. And finally, we were like, the producer said, just whatever. Just you want to come back one more day. So we came back to the very last day, and we got out there, and I got out there early, and the water, all of our water safety guys in our marine department were out there, and I couldn't believe it. The seas were just ridiculous. They were so big, and of course, these guys looked at me and said, "There's no way we're going to go out there." And I said, "Well, you and I let's go out and see if we can make it. And if we can't go out for safety reasons, of course we won't. But if there's any shot doing this, I know what's going to happen. Ben's going to watch it." Long story short, they approved it, and we got out there, and Ben was all excited. And we get him in the water, and he jumps in the water, and we shoot the shot. It's freezing cold. It's Iceland, and we finally get him out of the water, and the water's choppy up and down and up and down. And we do a second take, gets back in the water, and gets back in. And we zoom right back over to the land, and we had hot tubs for all of us to get into, and he gets in the hot tub. And usually Ben goes take after take after take, and he gets in the hot tub, and he looked down, and he looked at it, he goes, and we were about to do the playback, and he looks at the playback, and he says, "This better be good, because I'm never getting that water again." Just afraid of water to keep doing it. So other than not killing Ben Stiller, we were happy to get the shot, and we were very successful in doing it. So you have to know Ben also.
Thank you for not killing him, because I still need Zoolander too.
Exactly. And apparently that's what we may be doing soon.
Oh, you just made me so happy. Well, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much.
And Michelle, what's your favorite on-set story?
Oh, you were talking through the thing. I've been trying to think about it, and you know what? I have to say, one of my favorite days, and it had really nothing to do with shooting per se, as just the quality of the character of this man. I did a movie with John Candy years ago, and unfortunately, nobody really saw the movie. It was called Delirious. And oh, good.
I saw it too.
Was the most special filming experience I have ever had in all the years I've been working in movies. I mean, just every single day was just an amazing experience. It was just amazing. But one day, we were shooting in Hidden Valley here in Los Angeles, outside by Thousand Oaks, and John had asked, it was the opening day of Dodger Stadium's opening day, and John had said, Michelle, if we can get me off tomorrow, you know, I promise I'll bring you guys Dodger dogs or something, but I need to be there for opening day. And so they rearranged, we got the schedule rearranged, and we did it. And the next day, when we were shooting out there, they were shooting in a ranch, and right around 4 o'clock, 5 semis drive up from Dodger Stadium with every vendor at the field. So there are Dodger hats, snow cones, everything that they had, and they start piling out of these trucks and just set up for the rest of the day for the crew for the whole day.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Amazing. And it's just who John was. I mean, he was just such. The funny thing is, I was doing that movie when my husband was working on The Doors, which was a difficult experience at the time. It was just hard. It was a hard movie for him. He's an electrician. And I would come home every day and go, oh my God, like today we had another party and they gave us more presents and we had lunches. And my husband came home one day and went, there was an accident on the 101. People were hurt. I wish I was in it. It was just like, oh really? Because we got like more presents. It just was one of those amazing experiences.
But The Doors turned out amazing too, to his credit.
It did. Oh my God, yeah. It's just a little. It wasn't quite as fun as
Well, I know.
Delirious. It did better.
Well, you know, they're different. They're different genres that.
Oh yeah. But I'm glad. Who was it who said they actually saw it?
I did.
Oh, you did. Oh my gosh. It was actually a very funny, cute concept. The great actual. Pardon me?
Back in the day, I used to catch a lot of John Candy movies before he passed, like Nothing But Trouble, Planes, Trains, Automobiles.
Yes. And he was a pretty great man. So.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Michelle.
Oh no! I was interrupted. No, that's perfect. I'm done.
Well, I want to thank you for being on the show tonight as well.
You're very welcome.
And Bert, how about you? What's your favorite on-set moment?
Well, I was doing, when I first moved to Los Angeles, I was the first AD on Kojak. And it was a Friday afternoon, and I kind of overhear Telly saying, I hear the words Caesar's Palace and Frank Sinatra. Comes Monday morning, there's no Telly. And he had a habit of being lost, and my second he had a list of all the suspects. And he came to me and he says, nobody knows where he is. And I stopped for a minute and I looked at him and I said, Caesar's Palace. And my second said, what? I said, call him now, person to person, Telly Savalas, Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. And in those days it was like a dial phone and we're on stage and you had to have a purchase order and about 5 minutes later, my second says, Bert, they're ringing his room. And he gives me the phone. So I get on the phone and I say, hi, Telly, good morning. And he says, oh, hi, Bert, what time's my call? And I said, Telly, we're way past that. What time can you be here? And he said, well, what time is it? And he says, okay, I'll be on the 11 o'clock plane. Next thing that happens is, in those days, you also had to, the extras had their own union, and they had some strange rules about how you could break for lunch. So I broke for lunch, and I come back to the stage, and now his car is there, and the motorhome's there. So I go in the motorhome, And he looks at me and he says, "Well, I'm here. Where is everybody?" So that's Telly. It was practice for Don Johnson.
Telly Savalas is another great that we lost, I think, too soon.
Yes. Yeah. No, I loved him. He was terrific.
I just remember with bald head and a lollipop from Kojak.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Nick, what's your favorite?
Well, we'd have to go back to Expendables 2, where we're shooting in Bulgaria. Where Leonardo started back there. We're shooting in Bulgaria, and we had Bruce Willis for like 4 days. And that was one too many days for Bruce. And I'm up on set, and I get a call from base camp and said, "Hey, Bruce wants to see you down in his trailer." I said, "Okay." So in between setups, I run down there. And on my way in, I see Sylvester Stallone, and obviously this is his it's his second Expendables, and he's the one who started it, and it was his show, and he's the alpha male, and everything revolves around him. And I just let him know. I said, "Hey, Bruce is going to want to try to get out of here. He wants to talk to me. Get out of here a day early." He goes, "Well, what can you make that happen?" I said, "Well, yeah, I can make that happen, but you're going to have to stay here this weekend and work on Monday." He goes, "Okay, go tell him exactly what he wants to hear, and I'll be in a second." It's okay. So I go into Bruce, and Bruce starts talking. He goes, "Hey, I was just wondering, since I'm only working a couple more hours on the next day, where if you can shift the schedule around and make it work." I said, "Bruce, I can make that's not a problem. I can sit around and make this work." We just have to pass it by the producer. He goes, "Oh, that's no problem. I'll make that happen." And then, knock, knock, knock. Here comes Sly, and he comes in. He's like, "Hey, how's everything going?" And he's great. Bruce goes to him, "Hey, Sly, it looks like, Nick can change around the schedule so I can get out of here a day early." And Sly goes, "Oh, that's great." He goes, "You can make that work, Nick?" I said, "Absolutely, not a problem." I said, the only thing that's it's gonna make you have to stay this week then, and you're gonna have to work on Monday. Because if I switch the schedule around, it switches your schedule as well." He goes, "Oh gosh." He goes, "Well, Bruce, looks like you have to stay here an extra day." Turns her and walks right out the door.
All right.
and Bruce is sitting there with egg on his face, and his jaw drops down to the floor, and he's like, excuse me, lady. So that was fun to be involved with.
And I have to ask you this one for my friends out there that are listening.
Yeah.
Are they really doing the Expendables?
I don't know. I've heard rumors about that. I'm not involved with it, and I wish them luck if they do.
It must have been a killer.
I just did number 3, and that's coming out in August, and they just keep adding actors to it. Mel Gibson and Wesley Snipes and
Chuck Norris.
Kelsey Grammer. No, Chuck Norris isn't in this one. But they have Antonio Banderas, and they just keep adding actors to it. So Harrison Ford is in this one now, and so it just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Well, soon you're gonna have all of Hollywood in there. You're gonna have like Justin Bieber.
Well, as long as it keeps their bills.
Oh, definitely. Well, Nick, thank you for being on the show.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Leonardo, you still around?
Yes, I'm here. I'm just amazed to hear the stories of everybody.
I love these stories, but I want to remind everybody that we're here to get this movie about these men and women made and out there for everybody to see.
Absolutely.
So anybody that wants to help with the legendary AD film, how do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, they can go to the website legendaryad.com, and then from there they go to Kickstarter, and basically they can donate even $1 is through Amazon or even PayPal, and he's super safe, and he doesn't charge anything credit card until the day of the countdown is over. And if we make it, they charge it. If we don't make it, it's not even charging the card. But for me, it's not an option. So in a way or another one, we will make it. And I just hope that, I have more people that just with small amount, like $1, $2, $3, they can make this happen. That will be the most grateful thing, because that means that there is audience that want the documentary done.
Definitely. We have a link to your Kickstarter page on the show description for our listeners to follow, and then go to donate if they'd like.
All right. Thank you very much for this.
And I would like to let them know that it's a worthy cause. I enjoyed speaking to every single one of you, and I wish I could talk to you for hours and hours on end.
Yeah, it's always like this.
On the show. Thank you.
Every single time that we go at every single person to interview, we end up to stay there until the end of the day, and it's like, well, I wish the day was like a 64 hours just to stay there and listen the stories that they have, because it's really the best film school you can do. Is amazing.
Yeah. Tell them about how Christina.
Definitely, and I know a lot of your crew in the Kickstarter video was saying that making this documentary was the best film school that they've ever had.
Yeah. The wife of Bart Bluestein actually end up to cook for us, for me and the crew, dinner, because we stay until late in the day. So that was a story as well. Thank you, Christina, if you're listening.
And run out of time, but what I want to do is I want to end the show, and I want to quote Mr. Leonardo Corbucci right now. It's not important if we will make movies, but how we'll make them and what we'll say with them.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I always feel that a lot of time we take so much effort to do a movie just to do it, So many movies are done, and people are like try to find the finances, and they try everything to be in one movie, just to the sake to be in one movie. And I think that's not the most important part of our business. The most important part of our business is what we tell with that movie, and this is like was the concentration of all my career, So basically, I always try to remind to my friends that say, "Oh, I wish I did this, I wish I did that." I said, sooner or later you will have your movie, and don't worry, it's not important which movie and which movie you don't do, but what you're going to say with a specific movie. I think that's the most important thing.
Most important is definitely. And that's our show for tonight, everybody out there, and I would like to personally thank again each one of the assistant directors out there, the ones that weren't able to be on the show. Guys, millions of people appreciate the stories you made happen for us, and we wish you long careers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Thanks for having us on.
I think we're done.
Oh, that was a fast hour.
It was fun.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for watching this documentary, basically, of the radio show. We really enjoyed it, and come back to check the video soon. Ciao. Thank you, Bart, for let us stay in your house.
Okay.
Bye now.